8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and thanking you for joining us in another session of Virtual Bahrain. We had an exciting day yesterday, and today we continued in the morning with cybersecurity. Now we have a very interesting topic, which is driving the evolution of digital banking. With the pandemic and restrictions on movement, using less cash and things like that, the banking sector and the central bank of Bahrain, especially in Bahrain, had to drive. We have people who were in the front line in terms of driving the transformation and the evolution of how payments and how banking behaves during these challenging times. So we hope that we'll have an exciting 1.5 hours with our 3 speakers. Each one will give a presentation, followed by a panel discussion where we are looking forward for the audience to contribute. So as a reminder, you can go on the panel and raise all your questions that are interested. It will be good if you mention your name, where you are from, and be specific about questions, because if it's comments, we will not have time to read your comments, so they'll just be on the portal. But questions that we will transfer to the speakers, and the panel. So first of all, we are honored and joined today by Mr. Abdelwahid Janahi. He is the Chief Executive of Benefit. Mr. Abdelwahid joined Benefit in April 10, 2005. So time flies, Abdelwahid.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. 15 years.
15 years. He has a BSc with focus on marketing, and from St. Edward University in Austin, an MBA from the University of Bahrain. Mr. Janahi brings to the company a total of 34 experience in the financial industry field, covering marketing, telecom, and business development. I am sure all of us in Bahrain feel how under the leadership of Abdelwahid, Benefit has changed the team and has changed the way they deliver things. So we really appraise them for the major changes they did to Bahrain in the positive way. So Abdelwahid, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning to all viewers and participants. And first of all, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for this introduction, and thanks for the organization and for giving me the opportunity to give you a highlight of what we have done. As you can see, the title is Our Experience in the COVID-19. Let me start a little bit of introduction, and then I'll give you the. I have a presentation that I will share with you soon. But I thought, I will just touch base a little bit on this COVID, or the impact of COVID-19. I think the norms of the people's lives, change now, and I think we have to cope with the priorities changing. Now, the health and survival, it's becoming a priority these days. When I say survival, I'm not talking about only individuals, but I'm talking even about the organizations and the institutions. And we can see, it's the impact. It's on the whole world. It affected the economy, the trading, the banks, the companies, the travel industries, tourism. So you name it. I think nobody was an exception with COVID-19. However, in terms of our business, we are in the electronic payment business. So somehow this helped us to move faster. Although, our strategy, it was there since last year, and I will share with you our strategy. But this is something that really speeded up our process. So we noticed that both businesses, consumer, are highly alerted about this current situation, and the non-cash payment by consumers start becoming preferred options. Large businesses, SMEs, small merchants, the demands of the consumer and businesses are rapidly increasing, for the online transactions. So as benefit, we align our agenda according to the national agenda. Like in general, we are focusing, on the going cashless, empowering digital services and digital transformation, elevating the innovation. Okay, so the default, if you can see the default online services, and becoming more important, and more of a virtual financial institutions coming on board, with banks, PSPs, open banking services. So the non-cash payment, the way we look at it, it's becoming like a default, as we move on. And I believe, in my opinion, that the countries who have not set the cashless agendas will join in such direction and develop their, their national programs. Although I still believe that, a lot or big part of our society, they are cash-based, and this is a challenge. Although there are a number of initiatives, if we speak on the level of the GCC, lately you can see there are a number of wallets becoming, like in Bahrain, for example, we have the Benefit Pay, we have the Max Wallet, we have the B Wallet, STC Pay in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, Mada Pay in Saudi Arabia, and lately I was reading even Oman, they have Thawani Pay. So each country, they have their own strategy and their own direction. But I think, this should be a multi-stakeholders, and I always look at it at the GCC level. Okay, and there should be an effort that should be part of the GCC national financial sector strategy. So, and the focus, it should be, like all of us, because if we come like as a GCC, it's like we always look at it as, as one market. And I believe both, consumers and bank, they have realized the advantages that they gain and learn during this pandemic time. And even central banks, they have set certain rules, okay, and laws. Now for Bahrain, alhamdulillah, we have a very proactive central bank, which they have already set, the open banking directive, sandbox framework, updated law about e-check, updated financial crime section, and EKYC related topics that also we are managing. It is all in the CBB rulebook. So fintech will continue bringing values and initiatives that will empower the digital banking era. And virtual and digital banks are becoming a fact, okay? And e-service is becoming really commodities these days. And we noticed that during the COVID-19 situation that, if I speak about the Benefit Pay enablement, it's increased incredibly during the last 3 months. And I will share the numbers with you in a while. Like even, it's not only I'm talking about large merchant, even the small merchant, even, the Instagrammers, the home businesses, even if you look at the fish mongers, or the fish market. So we have very nice example, which are, the individual business owners that really they are happy to work with this, the online business. Even the delivery services, by the way, is another area where we are seeing remarkably changing in cash usage, both consumer and delivery agents now preferring either online payment upon order placing or pay via, the e-wallet. For us in Bahrain, we use a lot for this payment and purchases, which is Benefit Pay. So the Benefit Pay acceptance, which offer both QR and electronic fund transfer system, is becoming very popular and friendly in terms of usage, and becoming an options for the shops, as I mentioned, including for very small ones, food trucks, barbers, small vegetable shops. So that's the nice thing, now it's becoming so simple and so easy, where you're serving, from a big organization to a very small individual owner. So that's the beauty of this, I would say, the online. So let me now, since I thought I give a little bit of interaction. So you can see now my slides, right? I mean, it is there, right? It is. I want to share with you our benefit experience. I mean, what we have done and what is our strategy. If we look at the strategy, if you look at this slide, we work on basically on two pillars. Okay, so the first pillar is we call it Benefit Plus, and the Benefit Plus lifestyle platform and include. So those what I mean by lifestyle, it includes services that relate to the food, services that related to the shopping, services related to the mobility, okay, and even the marketplace. The other pillar is the data. Now the data also is becoming a very, very crucial, important, and it is I look at it as a power. So we are now handling or managing the Credit Reference Bureau, okay, of Bahrain, and we coordinate even. Although there's still no link between the GCC, but we are coordinating between the GCC. Now, the Credit Reference Bureau, it helped a lot the banks and even non-banks. So, in terms of making decision for credit facilities. So the decision, as you know, it will be made, it will be based on facts and figures rather than, subjectives becoming, more objective. So the data is very, very important. Also, we are working now, we're trying to work, inshallah, hopefully by end of the year or beginning of next year, to establish something called SME 360, where we help the small to medium organizations where they have a proper data. So this can be provided to the banks, and so both the banks can, provide their credit facilities on numbers that they believe it's correct. Okay, so that's the two pillars. Other strategic initiative already we have also worked and also we have delivered, like tokenization and contactless. I'm sure people in Bahrain, they heard about the step and go using the mobile. So this is already almost now, I would say, was introduced 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks to 3 weeks ago. And other services coming as we speak, the wage protection system, okay? And we are also working with the e-check in coordination and collaboration with the central bank. And also we're enhancing our eKYC project. So we are working with the banks in order, although this eKYC was introduced almost 1.5 years ago, but now we're trying to make it more of an API connection between us and the bank. Now, this is the strategy. Now, what our goals, it's very simple. The goals, it's as you can see, the first one, you add value to the entire Bahrain community and beyond. It is worth mentioning that when Benefit started, the purpose was adding value to the financial institutions, but now the horizons change. Okay, it's adding value to the financial, non-financial, government, private institutions, non-profit organization. So the scope and the horizon, it's serving the whole Bahrain. And the second one, obviously, it's our team. Okay, and this is our commitment that always you should become innovative and provide services that make the life easy for the people. Services that people they can transact in a very simple, convenient manner. And this is where we're going to talk later about the benefit pay in a while. All this, I mean, in terms of the strategy and the long-term goals, okay, it's based on delivering the national direction and priorities. Okay, so you can see 3 of them. We work towards the cashless society, and we work towards the digital economy and society, and the number 3, which is sustainable innovation. So our mandate is it is an ongoing process. We should keep adding the new features and new services, and this all based on the direction of the central bank, okay, as well as we work closely also with the Information Government Authority and with the ADB, and we're trying to be within the frame of the Vision 2030. So that's our direction, and we know where we want to be, and hopefully in a few years, as they come. So, so as we move on, I thought I will share with you some statistics to show you that this is done by Ernst & Young, okay, and that to show you that how the people and the behavior changed in the last period. I mean, like for example, if you look at the Saudi Arabia, you know, the Carrefour, they're saying that, you know, they have reported like 800% rise in the online grocery. People, they don't go, they just do an online shopping. They don't go to the premises, okay? And the habit, which means now it's 92%, as you can see, that's from UE and KSA, is changed. So people, they prefer to stay at home and make orders, although they like to go out from time to time, but that's because we know some people, they are scared because of the COVID. So if they have the facilities, then why not? You know, if I am sitting at home and I receive my grocery and I receive my merchandise, you know, very safely and in a very proper manner, why not? And if you look at the other side of the slide, they also the study, they just projected the next 2 years, what will happen. So if you look at that, you see almost the average we look, there will be a change around 50%. So the behavior, you know, 50%. So again, the cash will be a challenge, okay? So we have to work hard. So it's not enough yet. So we have to work hard to convince the people to change their behavior, to less use of cash. I mean, if I just look at this, and for example, 47%, this is as their speculation, will do more grocery shopping online and will use more contactless delivery and cashless, okay? 43% use less cash, the overall. So that's, I mean, just I thought I share with you that still we are, you know, in terms of the behaviors, we are 50-50. So we are 50%, we move towards cashless, but still there's a big challenge that we need to work on this. I remember I attended one of the conferences for Visa International, and one of the guy there during, that was a few years back, and he said, our challenge is not our competitor, it's not American Express, it's not MasterCard. You know, the biggest competitor is the cash. So this is where you just imagine the national scheme, they look at the cash as their competitor. So we have a mandate, by the way, we're working also with the central bank, that in order to work towards the cashless society. So going to the Benefit Plus lifestyle, if you look at the at the circle, I mentioned about those services that we have. Okay, I mean the lifestyle, and each lifestyle has certain services. And if you look at the gray round or circle, you will see there are like 17 services. And out of those 17, we managed to implement 10 out of that, and we are working on the rest. And we have to be fast. Okay, so we cannot take our time, and our team, they are, you know, always on their toes. And I always say that, I use this, we used to say the big will eat the small, okay, or the big fish will eat the small fish. Nowadays we see, I mean, the way we see, or I'm sure you know about this, but I thought I just to refresh everybody, so that, you know, thought it is, we always say that the fast will eat the slow. So regardless the size. So size doesn't matter. So you have to be fast. I think fast is the key word. So if you look at all this, the life cycle segments, it's all towards cashless. It's towards lifestyle. It's towards that, you know, targeting whether young people or traders or older people, in terms of the food. So everything will be in your mobile. Okay, eventually. So you do everything, it will be in your mobile. It will be your account, it will be your bank, it will be your health gadgets. So everything, that's the aim. I think it's not only us, I'm sure the others will, you know, will move towards that as well. So if we look at the benefit pay, okay, and I will share with you, because I like figures, to be honest, and this is a real figures. You can see now Fawry Plus, I'm sure the people in Bahrain, they know Fawry Plus is you transfer the money, you know, it's from account to account, and it is 1,000 dinar and less, okay? But you can see the jump in 2019. the amount was 321 million, okay, in terms of the value. And look at total value in 2020, it's 1 billion. And we're talking about from January till August. So the numbers talks, okay? So the number talks that, you know, people are really moving towards cashless. And this is, by the way, only on Benefit Pay, on the app itself. Now the Fawry Plus, it is something that available on the platform, and there are other means and other channels that people use. So I'm just sharing this number with you on the e-wallet that we have, which is a Benefit Pay. So this Fawry Plus, it is for 1,000 dinar and less, and the average transaction, believe it or not, it is around 60 dinar. And just imagine it's 1 billion. I'll share with you another number now. For example, during the Eid holiday, for 3 days. Okay, now during the Eid, we know we have this. We call it Eidiyah. People, they used to give cash to the kids and to their children. Okay, so in 3 days, we had around 22.5 million dinars in terms of transferring using just the Fawry Plus on the on the Benefit Pay. The other service, which is Fawry. Now Fawry, it is above 1,000 dinar. Okay, and mainly it's used by the corporate. They use it for the salary transfer. They use it by the government. So there are many corporates. So this is, and anything above 1,000, it is unlimited. So you can do the transfer. Obviously, on Benefit Pay on the application, no, there is a limit around 15,000 dinar. That's at least, you know, to control the amount of the app. So again, you can see 34 million. Okay, in 2019, and from January 2020 to August 2020, it's around 133 million dinar, and there's almost 291% increase. So again, this gives you another example. This is mainly used by the businesses, and so it's not only individuals. Individuals mainly on the Fawry Plus. Now the Fawry is more towards the corporate and businesses, although some individuals as well, they use the Fawry because the Fawry, it happens twice a day. By the way, it's worth mentioning that the Fawry Plus that I talked about earlier, you know, the balance, it is happen instantly. Okay, so the mandate, the amount should not go more than 30 seconds, but the actual, what we notice nowadays, it's around between 6 to 7 seconds when you transfer the money. Another service that we use on Benefit Pay, again based on our platform, which is Fawatir. It is like an electronic bill payment presentment. This is also, we notice there's a big jump. This is mainly used by universities, the schools, you know, to pay their bills and to pay the fees, used by the real estate. We have a long list to be landlord, facility management, you know, the rent collectors, the insurance companies, they use it, with the charities as well. You know, we have an icon as well, you know, it's a charity that people, they transfer the money for. I mean, the licensed charities organizations, and already they are available as well on the Benefit Pay. So if you look at the overall, you know, in terms of the Benefit Pay, we introduced a number of services lately, and one of them is the fuel payment. Okay, now the fuel payment, this is something that everybody was so happy because you sit in your car, okay, and you just link your app to the whatever pump they put a petrol for you, and then the moment your tank is full, you receive a message, you approve, and you go while you're sitting in your car. Okay, so this was introduced in May 2020. Now from May till August, okay, we have
sorry for the interruption. We ran out of time, but you can continue to wrap up.
Okay, but no, I think this will be the last one. Okay, now the one we have, this is very interesting because we have a 1 million transactions that it's from May to August, and this is it was received very well by the public, and and we have around 130,000 customers. The same thing with the donation Okay, you can see the figures. I mean, I don't have to mention since because of the time. The same thing with the remittance, by the way. Now, the money exchanger, they have also the using benefit pay. The last one, which is the scan to pay, which is for the purchases. Okay, many people they use and they pay online using the scan, scan to pay. So even when you use it while you're sitting at home, you pay your deliverables, you pay your delivery, you pay for your merchants. So overall, if you look at the benefit, our contribution, benefit pay, I mean the cashless. That's when I said I'm focusing on the cashless society. So in 2019, if you look at the amount, you're talking about 363 million dinar. But if we talk about from January to August, it's around 1.6 billion. So there is an impact. So the whole thing, I mean, our by the way, our principle that always look at the user experience. You make it simple, you make it convenient for the people, and listen to the people what they want. And many of the things, by the way, that we have done and we keep adding, it's because we're receiving the customer suggestions and customer input on this. So, okay, so sorry for being, I thought maybe, sorry for being a little bit longer, but I think I just thought I'd give you this some highlight on what we have done, as we moved on during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdul Wahid. Now it's okay to run overtime, didn't run overtime too much. And I think I agree with you. Numbers really talk because they show the progress, they show the change. So thank you for sharing all this information. And I'm sure we will have a very interesting panel discussion and questions received from the public. We will move on now to our next speaker. Is it? Yes, I'm just checking the sequence. Okay. So we have with us our speaker and panelist, Mr. Amr Janjua. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Amr is a Chief Project Officer at Ion Digital. Formerly, he was a Global Business Transformation Leader at NCR Corporation. Amr leads the product team to drive customer engagement and platform adoption. He has over 20 years of experience in building and delivering digital products and capabilities for blue chip organizations like NCR and Lloyd's Banking Group. He has been credited with delivering various multi-million-dollar digital transformation initiatives across the 4 continents. We will be happy to listen to you, Amr. Your topic is AI-driven digital banking transformation. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ahmed. So I'll just share the presentation. And by the way, very interesting kind of insight from Brother Abdul Wahid. Very interesting. Okay, so can you see my screen? Okay. All right. So let's start. I think it's a really kind of interesting topic when we talk about digital transformation. So I think before I start kind of talking about the topic itself, it's important to set the scene. So as you mentioned, my name is Amir, Chief Product Officer with Aon Digital. Some of you might already know Aon Digital. So Aon Digital, we basically, very simply, we say we build digital banks, rather intelligent digital banks. And I think when we talk about digital banking evolution, intelligence is really, really important. We have got 5 clients at the moment. We have got 12 mandates across GCC. We have got 7 core products within our kind of product line. And the kind of problems we solved is kind of around a very kind of first thing on the top of the agenda for us is around building customer trust on technology. I think that's what we do. So the customer feel emotionally connected when they're dealing with technology and when they're dealing with financial services. So I think that's the very first thing we do. Then we just kind of focus on bringing innovation to the market. Also, I think some of the key solutions kind of we provide to the market is going digital with the minimum upfront capex, and also reduce revenue attrition to other digital banks and the new banks, in the region and in the country as well. Obviously, we are Bahrain based, so that's why really good to hear this kind of insight from Benefit as well. So I think that's a very brief insight into what and who Aon Digital is. Again, just wanted to connect it back to as previous conversation. It's very important to acknowledge where we are today, and it's very important to understand how this COVID situation is impacting us. So very simply, if we think about, we recently picked up this kind of survey from KPMG. All the indicators were very positive in 2019, and now they are really giving a kind of alarming, alarming kind of notice to everybody actually, who is in the financial services, and not only in financial services. It's basically touching each and every industry which is part of this whole ecosystem actually, where we live as a society. There's quite a bit of a challenge, which is happening at this stage. So I think just keeping that number in kind of a mind to make sure that we have a kind of a different baseline to start with now actually. Critical to keeping the same kind of a theme in mind. So that was a PwC kind of a survey. Our kind of a strategic partner, Qarar, they have kind of really gone out to the market and very much focused on COVID-19 and how digital banking evolution is happening in the market. They have spoken to a large number of GCC-based clients, and the kind of a key message which is coming out that digital banking is on the top of the agenda for every senior leader or C-level leader in the region. However, where they are in the journey is slightly different. And when I say it's slightly different, it means some of them, they kind of think they're fully prepared for this. Some of them, they're thinking they're partially prepared for this. And some of them, they're really thinking through what needs to happen actually in this space. So there's quite a varied kind of a response. I think typically when I think about any calamity like this or unfortunate event like this, I don't think it breaks things. I think the way it happens, it really highlights the things which are not working already actually. So, and if you think about COVID-19, obviously there's a massive kind of impact from, from health perspective, unfortunately. But if you think about it, digital banking, we've been talking about digital banking for decades now. I think it's at least, 1 decade, everybody's talking about this kind of technology-enabled experiences for the customer. But, we haven't been focused on this yet because we thought that the model we are working right now is kind of working at the moment. But, one of the examples over here I had kind of, because I did have this webinar actually yesterday, and one of the example I've given was basically from Benefit. And, I think I would not use that example anymore because I know we've already seen quite a bit of an insight about Benefit. So how people behaviors are really shifting and how the things are moving more towards kind of a digital. I think that's kind of itself accelerating the digital kind of a need or digital evolution, if you want to call it. One of the studies from McKinsey, did kind of a talk about US, and they're saying the digital adoption has increased 20% in financial services in the last 6 months, basically. So, again, there's another discussion whether how sustainable that would be in the long run. But we have seen massive amount of shift from consumer, from technology organizations, and even from regulators as well to enable that digital shift into the right space. So just kind of thinking about the challenges, again, including COVID as one of the key factors as well, recent factors, if you want to call it. So if you think about challenge, it's all about trust. That's how kind of I see this. And it's all about customer trust. But important thing to consider is that, this balance of trust is shifting from human or physical to very much digital and virtual. And I think that's the key. And I would kind of see this as a paradigm kind of a shift over here. So shift is happening, and there are three key factors, if you want to call it, in this shift. This is a very fundamental shift which is happening. There are three key factors over here. So one is about consumer behavior. Then you think about this, tech players, so big techs and fintechs, and then you think about the regulators as well. And I totally second this previous conversation about Bahrain. I believe CBB is a very progressive and forward-looking regulator. So again, they are bringing a lot more constraints or opening and removing a lot more barriers as well at the same time to create that innovation and create that competition in the market. So these three factors play a very critical role. Just imagine, if I just take the first one, consumer behavior. Interestingly, and I think most of us, we know that around 60% of the population now in GCC is millennials or Gen Z actually, and these are the kind of people who are very much native digital. They exactly use digital for from ordering food to sending messages to sharing their emotions to even doing their financial services as well. So I think that's a major shift which is happening in the region, which is kind of driving that adoption rate as well. On top of it, if you put big techs and fintechs in the picture, they are creating that different type of customer expectations actually. I'm a big user of Amazon. I'm sure most of the people are in certain regions where it's available. If you think about Amazon, the way, the convenience, the ease they kind of really give to me is just second to none. Just imagine their Prime Amazon Prime. So far, I think they've got 150 million customers, and that's one of the largest successful loyalty program in the world actually at the moment. So just imagine how they're really transforming that behavior in instant gratification and instant kind of a reward, if you want to call it. So I order something today. In some cases, I deliver or I get delivery on the same day. Doesn't matter what I order. And I order something today, latest I'll get something tomorrow at my doorstep. So they are totally changing the whole kind of expectation on how we interact in different kind of a space in our daily life. And then there are challenger banks, they're coming on top of it and then kind of reshaping the consumer experience. If you think about these neo banks and challenge banks, the whole, I think the whole, unique point for them is how they improve the customer experience. I think that's what they are working towards. And if you just think about these challenger banks, just taking example of Europe, they kind of are roughly the top 15 kind of, fintechs. They kind of around, create the value or kind of a valuation of around $44 billion kind of dollars at the moment. So it's kind of a really building big time, at this stage. So I think I've already touched base on the regulation. So I think the key, takeaway over here is we need to enable technology to build a sustainable customer trust. I think banks have got, or financial institutions have got no choice other than creating that trust with the customer using technology as an enabler, and also offering that very specific, I call it hyper-personalized. I think it's kind of a word used quite a bit, but hyper-personalized financial services with speed and iteration, at kind of a really a minimal cost. So now I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about, what this AI-driven kind of a banking I'm talking about, right? Just kind of, and then give some kind of use cases as well. So think about traditional versus digital, right? I just kind of touched base on instant gratification, instant feedback loop, instant reward. This is kind of a very much not possible using traditional kind of a methods. So I kind of really, perhaps I don't have any polls over here now, right? But I would, love to throw this poll at the audience and today on this kind of conversation. How many of us, for example, would like to queue up to inquire about a transaction or or withdrawing a cash or doing a check, right? How many of us would like to queue? How many of us would like to really start working with the bank to arrange a kind of finance for my car. It would take days or weeks actually to do that. How many of us, if something doesn't go right and we want to complain to the bank, how many of us would really like to write a letter and really either post it or go and send a deposit or give to somebody to say, hey, I'm not really happy with your bank? How many of us would like to do that? I think the numbers are going down. I think where the things are moving, just imagine, I take a photograph and my check is submitted. I walk into the dealership, car dealership, before I choose my car, I have got an offer from a bank actually on which car can I buy. And just imagine, I can split my, payments at the POS, right? I think it's already happening as well. So just imagine you go, you buy something big, straight away, you can just really pull that, into a credit rather than just kind of paying upfront for that kind of item. How many of us want to send money overseas with a couple of clicks? How many of us, even very basic, how many of us would like to open an account from anywhere in the world in 10 to 12 clicks? I think if you think about it, what I'm saying is how many of us would really love to live our life the way we want to, right? And I think the answer is most of us would love to do that, most of us. So, and, I think what COVID has done, it has kind of increased that, migration towards or adoption towards that whole idea behind technology or trusted technology and how we can really do all of these fantastic, and rather how we can live our life using those great kind of, bring that ease to life, I think I would say in simple. So if you think about, what's the kind of a standard banking, right? And again, we are talking about evolution of banking. So, I think the attention, especially giving this kind of a COVID-19, what's happening around us, and I just keep referring to it quite often because it's quite an extraordinary situation right now. We need to get the basics right, when it comes to the standard banking, because we don't want to, as financial institution or as a bank, we don't want to lose customer trust during these times. I think these are the very critical times, and we need to start building that, emotional connection with the customer even during this time. Because remember, customers, they do remember who was there at the time of need. And I think these are quite difficult times. I think what we need to really do, if customers can't really, go to the, branch or do some activity, etc., we should be there where we can really help them to achieve those goals. So I think something which was like, if you go back 2 years, things like digital customer onboarding, you go back 2 years, it was kind of early days, and lots of institutions, they were thinking about it, we need to do that. Now it's becoming a kind of a baseline for the digital banking, right? And again, now, banks like, Jazeel or banks like ILA or Live, they're kind of really getting to the next kind of a level of these kind of capabilities. And I think Brother Abdul Wahid also mentioned about, digital kind of a customer onboarding or eKYC, adding more kind of robustness, adding more digitization, adding more kind of a connectivity, APIs, all of those things are coming in, but these items are kind of becoming norm these days, actually. Same goes for these kind of items as well. Only thing I would kind of really say over here, because of these forward-looking regulator we have got much more opportunities like, open banking and a lot more other kind of innovation coming in. That is really creating that value for us as a customers. And also it's creating that convenience for the bank as well to reach out to us and help us to make and manage our money better. So, I must say Bahrain is leading the open banking revolution or evolution, however you see this. It's massive, it's big time in US, it's kind of a really, did catch up in UK and yes, rest of the Europe as well. And, I'm very glad to say that, within GCC, Bahrain is kind of leading the way. And, we have seen much more kind of attraction in this space. But the thing is, it's just the start. And at this stage, the kind of account aggregation or kind of services we offer, they kind of are quite a standard services until those kind of initiatives are fully embedded into the ecosystem. So now these are the kind of, I would say these are quite a basic kind of a standard digital banking. which obviously we work with lots of our customers. We kind of offer these kind of standard banking services as well. So now if we move towards the role of AI, it's very kind of critical to, I think, set the context. And when I say set the context, the data economy in the Gulf, or GCC is, kind of about 4.7 billion in 2019, which is like 0.3% of the GDP, as compared to Europe, which I think it was 1.9%. So again, there's a massive kind of a potential for us to really start moving into this big data economy. And I know we talked about digital economy. So there's a massive potential for us to really use data as really a key differentiator in the market to enhance consumer experience, to enhance products and services we deliver to consumers, and to enhance efficiency and kind of operational excellence as well. I think that's really critical. If you think about,
excuse me, Amr, we ran out of time, so sorry for that. You can wrap up if you can.
Okay. So let me wrap up pretty quickly. I think we set the context. So now with power of AI, we can do multiple kind of enablers. So very simply, I pick one example out of it. Again, digital onboarding. I'm not sure how many of us are aware of this. If you really think about the problem itself, in UK still we have got around 40% abandonment rate actually while customers are doing digital onboarding. So in kind of GCC, very high numbers of abandonment rate as well when we're doing the digital onboarding. There are multiple things from AI perspective we can really do to really reduce that churn, if you want to call it. I think there's massive power in that. Accounts, investments, fraud detection, some of the really key use cases. When we start building these kind of capabilities and platform in AI, we can start enabling very smart, very intelligent kind of experiences and also services and offers to the customers using AI. Very similarly, we can just do, when we think about open banking, I think open banking has got massive potential where AI can play a massively critical role to, again, enable that exceptional customer experience, helping them managing their money so well, but at the same time, really bringing in this kind of automation to improve the operational efficiency from bank side as well, or financial institution side. So just want to quickly touch base on one of the use cases we are delivering for one of our customers, which is purely driven by Aon Hikma. Aon Hikma is our AI platform. So very simply, I just kind of give 1 minute on this. Very simply, very first kind of initiative in the region. It's purely cloud-based. It's taking all the data into the consideration. It's really doing the deep learning. And it's kind of really doing this deep learning to predict which customers might have a potential to churn in the next 3 months, next 6 months, and next 12 months. And the kind of a savings and the kind of a return on investment on this one use case is phenomenal. So when we talk about the accuracy of our algorithms, we are almost getting 80 to 85% accuracy. You think about saving, almost if a mid-sized bank, it's almost between $500,000 to $1 million saving every year just by implementing this one use case. And if you think about the return on investment, it's around 800%, which is exceptional and phenomenal. So I think it's just the start. When we're talking about how we enable our financial institutions and how we enable the right kind of products and services to the customer, AI is really driving that scene, and it's just the start. We have got at least 10 more use cases in the pipeline to help and enable financial services to achieve that. I think very quickly, I want to wrap up because I think most interesting part would be to do a panel discussion. So this is the very last slide for me. If you think forward, AI would be driving a lot of change, but again, the other factors which would be part of it, think about regulatory kind of a thought process. It's been quite rigorous in the last year or so. I think it would just remain the same, most like on AML, KYC, etc. I think there would be more focus on that. Rethinking of business model, very critical, because it's all about, and it's kind of taken from KPMG study, it's all about how you shift your mindset to deliver a very different type of experience to the customer, which is all driven by technology. And that's why there has to be a massive rethink about how we really rebuild our business model. And I think customer innovation is the game, is the name of the game. If we successfully do it, I think there's no stopping for us. And finally, efficiency, again, because if we apply AI in a right direction, things like, automation, things like, deep learning, machine learning, if we apply all of these concepts in a right way, I think there's a massive potential for us to go in the direction of digitization. So with that, I think that's about it from me, actually.
Thank you very much, Amr. It's a very interesting idea. Lots of discussions happening about AI for the last, at least, very extensively the last 12 months, but really finding the application and where you can get AI to work is the challenge. Hopefully we'll have questions at the later stage. So our next speaker, young, a woman, in the banking, so that's the perfect future we see for banking. So I would like to welcome Zainab Jamshir. She's comes as her person. She's not representing her organization, so we'll avoid that. So she is experienced information technology analyst with demonstration history of working in the banking industry. A strong business development professional with a Master of Science focused on software development and database from Minnesota State University, and we would like to welcome her. Her topic is digital banking transformation projects. Welcome, Zainab. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for hosting me among the most, I would say, experienced.
Maybe you need to make your voice a little bit closer the mic.
Yeah.
The microphone.
I would like to say thank you for hosting me, and thank you for having me amongst most experienced people in the region, I would say, and among different presentation. Can you view my presentation? You can view my slides. Okay. So thank you for the introduction. So I will just introduce myself. My name is Zainab Jamshir, and I work in the information technology field. I've worked with many digital transformation projects, I would say in Bahrain, in GCC, and in MEA region. I've worked on both parties from commercial bank perspective and from operator perspective as well. So I will just share some of the projects that some of the strategic or the big digital transformation projects that are currently ongoing in the region. So since we have 15 minutes and we've heard the word digital transformation a lot in the past, I would say a couple of presentations and in the first day as well, I'll mention digital transformation word again, but with the focus and the banking perspective, I would say. And I'll try to focus on the realities of digital transformation rather than, and I'll just shed some light on the challenges and constraints that we're having in the current projects within the region, and to not get misled by the hype or the fanciness of the word itself, digital transformation. So as a general concept, and as Mr. Amr Janjwahi explained, digital transformation is one of the key aspects to focus for on the consumer. And it became nowadays a seamless or a natural experience for the users to have some digital products and services from banks, from operators, and from various financial institutions. So the whole focus here is the ultimate beneficiary, which is the customer, rather than the concept of automation and the concept of the technologies that are being used. Technologies are medium to use it in order to enable, as Mr. Amir said, to enable and easy the process for the users to do his or her transactions and so on. Digitalization is important. The third point, it says digitalization is required in banking without going crazy in massive investment, millions of dollars in the digital transformation. Before doing that, we should always have it step by step. When saying step by step, there are three basic concepts that we can go through digital transformation. Basically, we can start by responding to the new competition. As mentioned in the previous slides, the main focus is on mobile applications, and the users are always, especially as Mr. Ramos said, the millennials are always attached to their phone devices. So the first concept or the first direction for banks to go with is to try to cope with this competitions by focusing on the enabling the services through the mobile to become easier experience for the clients. Second, once we have tried to adapt to this new competitions, we need to go on the second stage and try to see what are the core banking system, what are the actual infrastructures that is available in the banks in order to enable those infrastructure to interact with other petals, with the new financial institutions, startups, fintechs, how to link those startup fintech solutions with the actual I would not say old technology, but the current infrastructure, the current core banking that exists in the banks. And the latest stage, which is the strategic positioning, which is having the ultimate solutions that currently we want, or everyone wants to have a user-friendly dashboard for the customers. They want to have the banking to be available 7 days, 365 days a year. So all those customers are demanding these points. So in order to be able to have a correct infrastructure, correct technology, we need to have to think of strategic digital transformation. I will shed some lights on some of the strategic projects currently in the region. As Mr. Abdel Wahid Janahi mentions, benefit is one of the top, I would say. I did not include it in the presentations because I knew there would be a full presentation on it. We are lucky actually to have benefit pay before the pandemic. We started using it before the pandemic, and throughout the pandemic, the numbers just raised very high. So we were lucky to have such technology, such digital transformation and infrastructure ready prior this pandemic. Some of the other strategic projects, when I say strategic, it means changing the whole infrastructure, changing the way that we are having the financial transactions within the region. I'm having 3 projects in my slides. Project within the MEA region, which is Buna or Arabs, a project within GCC region, which is GCC RTGS, and a project within Kuwait, which will be linked with GCC RTGS, which is KNPS. To start with GCC RTGS, which is a project initiated by the 6 GCC countries to enable the cross-currency and single currency within the region. So such strategic project, it enables us to have a big jump, I would say, in how we transfer the transactions within the region. And instead of waiting 2 to 3 days to receive your transactions when you have a cross-currency transaction, you will have it within the same day. So I'm just having example, if you transfer from a bank in Kuwait as KWD to a bank in Oman, you will receive the transactions through the medium of GCC RTGS. So as I said, we had 3 stages of digital transformation. These projects reside in the latest stage, which is strategic digital transformation. The second projects we are having is Buna or Arabs, which is part of the Arab Monetary Fund initiative. This project, again, it will change the way that we are having the transactions within the region for multi-currency, US dollar, euro, and how we are transferring the money between the Arab countries. The third project that we are having, which is Kuwait National Payment System. This is one of the, I would say, again, strategic projects in Kuwait. It's being initiative by the Central Bank of Kuwait. The KNPS will have multiple services to show just that the digital transformation is not one simple stage. It can combine multiple stages. So the KNPS will include the wage processing or salaries processing. It will include the transfers between the ministries within the country, and it will have the infrastructure ready for the digital currencies. So when we say digital transformation, as you said, we can enable few programs and try to cope with the technology, or we can have the current infrastructure and add petals to it. But in these projects, they're actually reinitiating how the transactions are happening, reinitiating the whole infrastructure in order to easy the transactions processing within the regions, whether if it's within the country, for example, for KNPS, or within GCC countries, or within the Arab countries. Some of the constraints, as I mentioned, that we will have the digital transformation projects, and the word, it's a very fancy word. We hear it a lot in the past few slides, but it will always come with some challenges and constraints. And to come to the reality aspect of it, the initiatives has started, but it comes with some constraints. Especially, I'll start with the constraints of the cross-border multi-currency digital currency projects that we explained, and then we'll have the constraints of digital transformation in general, if it's internal or external. When it comes to the cross-border multi-currency constraints, one of the main constraints, I believe Mr. Amr mentioned it in his slides as well, which is complications of the systems, of how to set up the systems, and complication or operational challenges that they will have. Basically linking the domestic RTGS, linking the core banking of the commercial banks with such systems, it's a bit complex setup. Since it's a new initiative, a new setup, a new technology, I would say. Other constraints, it can be the governance of the cross-border currencies. It depends on the central banks of each country and the rules and regulations that they will actually have to govern this aspect. One of the most important points, and I think in all banking sector, which is compliance. We have the anti-money laundering. This is one of the key concepts, or one of the most word that you hear in banking sector, which is compliance and AML. Again, how to comply with this aspect in those digitalization projects and those new technologies. And the last point is, especially in the projects that I have mentioned, is the foreign exchange conversion. Since we talked about GCC RTGS, or we talked about Buna Arabs projects, one of the key challenges that they have is the FX rates, and how the transactions will transfer from one country to another with specific FX rates. When it comes to GCC countries, we have 6 countries. 5 of the countries which is tackled this issue as FX is being picked with the USD. One of the countries, which is Kuwait, it's being picked with a basket of currencies. So this is one of the challenges of how to calculate the FX rate to use the technology and transfer basically in an easier, faster, secure way. Some of the other challenges for digital transformation in general in banking sector, we have some external challenges and we will have some internal challenges. I'm just shedding light on the challenges because we've heard the concept, we all know the concept, we've heard it in many fields yesterday and today. So I'm just shedding some lights on the banking constraints that they're currently having. And so one of the external constraints that the bankings or the financial institutions that they're having in digital transformation is investor expectation. They always expect that once they invest X amount of money, they expect a very fast return of that revenue, especially in IT. There is always a challenge for investors to invest in IT and as it's being a cost center rather than a revenue generator center. Inconsistency of data regimes restricting financial institution ability to generate value. This with the last point is basically on the rules and regulations that each central banks they're having in order to enable the digital transformation. As Mr. Amr again said, the open API banking depends on the rules and regulations of each country and how the banking and financial institution sector, they can cope or they can compete again once the rules and regulations change and they try to be in the first line of adopting those new rules and regulations. The third point is lack of enterprise readiness and capability by fintechs. So we have many fintech initiatives. We have many startups that they provide digital solutions and to help the current banking and current financial institution to ease their works, not necessarily in the financial transaction, but even in other area, whether if it's back office or front office. Agility is one of the keywords for those fintechs and startups. However, this agility word is always a challenge in the big banks and to cope with or to collaborate with the fintechs and the startups. Some of the internal constraints of digital transactions for
sorry, Zainab. Sorry,
yes.
Zainab, we ran out of time, so you might want to wrap up.
Yes, I'm wrapping up.
convenience.
This is my last two slides. So I will not go over all the constraints of internal constraints, but one of the key constraints as we see in the current banking is the lack of enterprise agility, as I mentioned, and the traditional risk conscience. Basically, many big banks are very cautious on how to invest in digital transformation and what are their expectations for it. So this is one of the key constraints, I would say. I will just go to the next slide just to highlight what would be next, since we know what is digital transformation, what are the stages, what are the current projects, and the challenges. I highlighted 3 slides in my presentation on the challenges just to show some reality of digital transformation. What's next? The easier way of doing digital transformation rather than spending on rechanging the whole infrastructure is to do it on bits or and pieces. Basically, thinking of ways of using the current infrastructure, the current technology that exists within the bank, and apply additional petals, additional technology on top of that until they reach to the maturity or strategic digital transformation. I would like to say thank you very much for listening to me for the last 15 minutes, and I will leave you with this call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zainab. I think it's very informative and looking at the different perspective when it comes to digital transformation in banking. because really I personally believe in the few years back, I will not call it, the digital transformation in banking in Bahrain was slow compared to the rest of the world, and I hope we see a different thing happening in the coming months and years. Okay, with this we will move on now to the question and answer. We have about 15 minutes to do that, and we have some questions on the portal. See if I can find them. Yes. So, first question I have, I will skip some of the comments because there it will be difficult to, a waste of time really to give comments, so that will be enough time. So the first question is from Mr. Rashid Al-Sanan. Thank you for keeping yourself known. And it's a question to Mr. Abdul Wahid. Question for benefit pay. When are we likely to see true cashless wallet where money being transacted within benefit pay accounts and without bank involvement, may be referred as prepaid?
So is the question saying when we're going to have the prepaid on the benefit pay?
Yeah, and without involving banks and other, yes.
Yeah. In fact, the whole, thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you, Rashid, for the questions. This is one of the features that we are looking at. To be honest, I don't have exact date. Understand because many e-wallets, they are based on prepaid account where you just top up your card and then you pay. Benefit pay is more this account based from IBAN to IBAN. But when to be honest, I cannot give you a date, but hopefully, and we'll take that into consideration. And in order for us to make it a proper and a full e-wallet, and I think it should be in, definitely it is in our, it's a list in our agenda. And I don't have an exact date, but hopefully, we will work on it, inshallah.
The second question is, I'll give it to Amr. Again, this is an anonymous user. Assalamu alaikum. FinTech argues that AI and chatbot systems are the future. A current key project in chatbots, for example, Benefit or others, how effective do you feel chatbots will be the next solution in the next 10 years? My current sentiment is that more intrusive than effective is the current state, where they prefer an agent rather than a chatbot. So what do you think about chatbots, AI? This is his opinion, but he's asking in 10 years.
Yeah, no. Really great question, and thank you for that. I think there's a wider kind of context over here than just the chat box. I think the whole idea is either you, how do you really engage with the customer? I think that's the whole idea. There are multiple ways of doing this. And obviously, if you can imagine, I think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, everybody was saying branches would be obsolete and nobody would be using branches, but that's not the case. Most of the people, they're still using it, right, for various different reasons. So very similarly, we do believe, I think as a fintech, that chatbot is really crucial to open up new engagements with the customer. And when I say new engagements, it could be understanding what they want to do, understanding what their needs are, and really connecting the right part of your organization back to the customer using chatbot. And when you talk about conversational AI, that can play a really important role. For example, a couple of banks, in the region, we are talking to them about when their millennials and Gen Z customers talk about them on social media. Obviously, as you know, social media is quite big, and especially if you think about Saudi market, Twitter is quite big, etc. So when those customers are talking about specifically about that bank in the social media, how can we pick up those sentiments? How can we transform them into actionable insights using conversational AI or chatbots? Like it's not exactly chatbot, but still, at the back end, you're using this AI, conversational AI. And then how can you really transform that into an actionable item from the bank teams, actually, whether it's customer services team or some other teams, they can pick up and reach out to those customers directly and start talking to them about it. So that's just one kind of a way of interacting with the customers. You can open a whole new channel where you can do sales and service. Now chatbots are becoming very, very intelligent. So it's not only just frequently asked questions. It's basically they do the intent recognition. They exactly know what different languages. I think Arabic is one of those languages where they can pick up all these kind of feelings, emotions, intents. So I think there is a big future out there. And one of the very important benefit of that would be, if you want to truly build AI infrastructure, you need two things. One is a very good set of data and a very diverse set of data. If you have these two things, I think on top of it, you can build a really strong AI kind of infrastructure. And when you talk about diverse set of data, chatbots do provide that diverse set of data because every time you engage with the customer, you record that data digitally, and that data really transforms into that set of data which can be used to make different actions or outcome-driven kind of a conversation with the customer. So I think there is a massive potential for this. I think the rest of the channels need to align with this, chatbot channel as well. I think it can't work in isolation, and rest of the organization needs to be fully aligned with this new channel which we want to introduce in the market. So I think there's some work needs to be done to make sure we effectively use that channel, but there's a big potential over there.
Thank you, Amr. Thank you for this message. The
Ahmed,
next question, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that following the questions raised by Mr. Rashid, already, by the way, if you look at Sadim, the fuel repayment, Sadim card, which is already, it is a prepaid, which is available, on Benefit Pay. So the features, we have no problem at all. It's only that it's the matter of how we work with the financial institutions in order to have this kind of cards to be, loaded on the Benefit Pay app. The features already there. Now, as I said, 133,000 people they are using Sadim. It is a prepaid. So I just thought, just to highlight this.
That's good to know. Thank you for sharing this. Now, the next question is from Naji Mubarak Tayyib. When do you forecast to have digital currencies overtaking the use of cash currencies in the GCC and MENA? Zainab, can you take this question? Digital currencies, or you see this too far from you?
One of the key constraints that I mentioned actually for the digital transformation is the digital currency. As I mentioned, one of the projects actually, KNPS, they initiated the platform and this infrastructure for digital currency, but did not announce yet when they will actually use it. So not all banks in the region are ready with the current or with the right, I would say, technology and infrastructure to start using digital currencies, but it will actually come once the setup is ready, or once the regulators actually they force it, I would say, to start using it.
Thank you, Zainab. I have two questions. They are almost the same. The one is from Tosin Arojolo, and it's the same question also from Rashid. And I think it's to benefit. When can we see international transaction or international transfers on benefit, or there is an obstacle?
Thank you very much. It seems Rashid today is focusing a lot on benefit, which is, I appreciate that. This is something that already in the process, and inshallah we are already, we have initiated this, and we're almost in the midway. okay, that people will be able to transfer international, just like what they do it now on the local market. And this is something, inshallah, will be added to our benefit pay as a feature that people, they can do this international transfer, and hopefully very soon. In fact, if we are targeting an end of the year, but we'll see. Already we are negotiating and discussing this with the certain parties in order to make it live. However, in terms of the purchases, now you can use benefit pay, anywhere in the world. Lately we introduced a tap and go, which is licensed by the Visa and MasterCard. So wherever you go now, you have your benefit pay, whether you go to the region, whether you go to Europe, whether you go to US, wherever you go. So benefit pay can be used outside Bahrain. So now we moved from Bahrain to the international market. That's for
So I clarify, is this still, it will go on it will not use a credit card, it will use
both. To use both
okay.
for the credit card, and it will be for both card. It depends on you which I mean as a
okay.
Yeah.
So you can add to benefit now a credit card.
You can, yes, you can. Now you can. In fact, many people, they have added the credit card, but again, this it depends on the in terms of the relationship between us and the acquirers, whether they allow you to go certain. But as an app, it is capable. You can add, and it is there. So in fact, I use it for certain purchases. But I mean, just going for international now. You can, because of the tap and go, because of the tokenization project that we have finished 2 weeks ago. So and that's our aim, by the way. Our aim just to move outside of Bahrain, inshallah.
Yeah, you're making all the consumers happy, because my wife is going to be very happy. She was objecting that she doesn't want to use her ATM card now because it's from her account. Now using the credit card, which I pay, she will make her life much happier.
Yeah, that's the purpose.
She can tap and I pay.
That was one of the use cases, Brother Ahmed. That was exactly one of the use cases.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that it's interesting that you mentioned this, Mr. Ahmed. One of the things that you see the idea, it's a small feature but has a big impact.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the features that we have, and still many people, although we did advertise and we did promote, but I noticed that the husbands, they don't mention it to their wives. Okay. So maybe on this platform, I hope the wives, they can see that there's something called a request for payment. Okay, so where somebody can send you that request, and then you have the right to say yes or no. And if you send it to your wife, if your wife send it to you, then it's up to you to say no, and then you will have the consequences. Yeah. But a feature that many people also, they have appreciated.
That's good. That's good. So I have a general question. It's a statement and general question. I'll give it to the three of you, and I would like an answer from each one, because this is where I want to conclude some findings on the digital banking or innovation in digital banking. So we see that from the statistics, at least that Mr. Abdulwahid shared with us, there was a huge increase this year in terms of transactions, amounts, and probably numbers. So can we conclude that pandemic drove people to use more contactless and digital? And I know you say that, but it's very important to have it as a conclusion. And the second statement, which is continuing, is how can we sustain this? Will we see a drop again if the pandemic disappears, or we have successfully, the pandemic has successfully managed to change the behavior of people? So Abdulwahid, you can start, and we can go.
Sure. Definitely, if you look at my presentation, initially we had a plan even before the pandemic. Our strategy was toward the cashless. It's from, if you look at, I shared with you from 2019. Now, yes. Pandemic obviously speeded up the process. That's for sure. And you can see a big, and this is like a hype, on the in terms of the transactions. Pandemic, it helped that many people, they started to refuse receiving cash because you hear a lot about the cash. It has a lot of one of the notes that has a lot of gems, and people now they prefer online and they don't like to receive cash. So the pandemic, yes, it helped. In fact, it's not only, I'm talking about even of the normal. I mentioned about this the fishmonger, the fish, the guy who sells fish in the street. By the way, he use now the benefit pay. The barber, they use benefit pay. In fact, one of the fishermen, he called the other day and he said, I want to thank you. Okay. And I said, why? He said, they use, in Bahrain now people, he called the fisherman, the man, just deliver this amount of fish to my home. And then, in the afternoon you come and I'll pay you the money. So he said, you saved me a lot of trip. I mean, he said, you saved me the trip because I used to go twice. And I used to wait for my money, until the afternoon. Now, when he calls me, I tell him this is how much. So he transferred the money, and I just deliver the fish. So I mean, the idea is you're helping the society in terms of the convenient, okay, and even saving costs. Now, the second part of your question, I think no, people will not will go. In my opinion, I think they will continue using the online because it is convenient and it's becoming obvious for many people, and very simple. Okay, and as we move on, you can see that the solutions that provided by the fintech institution that making life easier for the people. So and just imagine even the age factor has an impact because if you look, many young people they are moving toward this. So I think it will continue, inshallah, and we get rid of this pandemic, inshallah, soon. But in my opinion, it will. I don't think it will drop down. Maybe a little bit, but it will be more a natural growth, I think.
Thank you, Abdullah. Amr, your thoughts on that?
So, I've been reading this McKinsey report recently, and I think one of the conclusions they said, what we have achieved in the last 16 weeks, it's kind of almost equal to 5 years of kind of adoption and acceleration, basically, right? So it is a rapid acceleration. If I just take, again, we are talking about contactless quite a bit. So if I just kind of take an example of a contactless payment in UK, for example, it started in 2007. That's where they started doing this, tap and go or contactless payments. So until 2018, it was just 51% of the total kind of payments actually in the UK. So you just imagine around 11 years it took them to the adoption. Although it's such an easy thing to do, to be honest, once you start doing it, you're like, I'm not going to go back. But just to get people to that stage where they start using their tap and go, it took them 11 years around to get to 51%. And from the last 12 months, I think they have added 10 to 12% more actually. So now the ratio is going around 60 to 65%. So again, it's a massive uplift. And if you think about US was far behind actually on contactless or tap kind of a payments. In the last 6 months, they have increased massively, around 12 to 15% adoption from customers. And basically it's now coming to 45%, of the total kind of a transaction doing the tap and go. So again, I think adoption has always been a biggest challenge. What this COVID has done is kind of removed some of the barriers where we have seen some inorganic kind of a growth into the adoption, which is amazing. I think I very much kind of aligned to Brother Abdul Wahid. I don't see the drop massively after this because it's all about convenience. If you find the convenience in this, I don't think you would go back to the non-convenience. I think it's very simple. But because it's not an organic kind of a growth, there would be some dropouts towards the end where people might slightly go back to the old ways of doing it, but it would be a very small number actually. And majority of the trend or trajectory would go towards positive actually from here.
Thank you. Zainab, can you please also share us your thoughts about that?
I totally agree with Mr. Janjua that the contactless or the tap and go, you mentioned the example of the US and other countries. For Bahrain, recently we have the CBP issued the rule that all banks should have the actual credit cards or debit cards to have the feature of NFC or contactless and tap and go. So by end of this year, all banks will be changing this in Bahrain. So by beginning of next year, probably the numbers will go higher in Bahrain in this aspect. And the other, this is one of the opportunities, I would say, in this pandemic. The other opportunities for banking sector is the number of as we've seen, there are massive changes in the health sector. So number of deals and the number of transactions in the health sector is actually increased for the banking sector. So even the banks, they have some opportunity in this pandemic as well.
It's amazing. Maybe this is something I should not share, but I will share because it shows my history. The first bank I interacted with, forgetting Bahrain, during my university years, was Saudi Arabia, was Riyadh Bank. And when I joined the bank, the mission was to move from ledger, paper ledger, where the cashier registers how much he took from his cash. He opens another book and then he writes how much is in his ledger and his account. And it was a very painful thing for the employee and the customer. And to what we see today, without mentioning the details, and I worked, strangely, my first job was with a bank and I stayed there for almost 7 years. And we transformed, but even what has happened, and again, the same message, what has happened in transformation in the last few years is really nothing to what the banking did. So it's very amazing that what you in the sector are introducing is making people life much easier, it's making things faster, and you order food, you buy things, you pay, you transfer money to others. It's an amazing thing. And I cannot really, with all this change now, cannot even predict what the future will happen, the long-term future. I think it's amazing. And I think in the pandemic itself, when it came to Bahrain, specifically, I will not talk about the world. We were lucky because we had lots of things ready. The benefit is one good example. Some of the banks have already moved on going digital more and more. E-government was also ready. And imagine you're in a country that the e-government is not ready and lots of things. So we were lucky, very lucky that, and this is where I want to emphasize and to the audience and to the distinguished speakers, that beside the disadvantages of the pandemic and its negative impact on the health of people, their social life, at least with the technology, it helped us. It helped us better than countries which we were not ready and we did not have the technology. The leadership by itself has contributed a lot in terms of supporting the individual and the private sector. And I think the private sector and the banking sector and the healthcare sector also has contributed. So really, this is the true meaning of Team Bahrain, that everybody feels he contributed to the development of the country and supporting each other. So I hope next year when we have virtual Bahrain 2021, I hope we'll have even better stories to share, and stories beyond pandemic and things that are really driven by need, by customer needs, and the banking sector is more interested on AI, chatbots, international payments from benefit, and maybe more digital transformation projects. I would really thank you all. I have a final message to our audience. One, the presentations will be available on the platform for you to view and download, even recorded. If anybody missed any session, this will be also recorded on the platform. The platform also has a virtual exhibition. We have about 50 exhibitors on the virtual platform. You are encouraged to visit the virtual exhibition, interact with the exhibitors, arrange meetings. It's a good of experience. This is, I think this is truly the first virtual event that we have in Bahrain, not only from Zoom and conference, but it goes beyond that. And I think trying it is a good experience, and we need your feedback to make these things better in the future. Thank you again, and if you have any final words, or we can close our session. And thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you very much, really, and thank you for the panelists. And it was very beneficial. It was like it's more of a cross exchanging the information, and I appreciate your efforts and and as an organization, something that I think that we keep doing it. We need it. We should update ourselves. And for me, it was very fruitful, and I'm learning.
Yeah.
So that's part of our learning process. And thank you very much.
Same here, Ahmed. Thank you very much to everybody, to the panelists, to the guest as well. Amazing kind of experience. Thank you very much for providing this, and thank you very much for. I know there's a massive amount of effort goes behind the scenes to make it so seamless for everybody on this platform. So once again, thank you very much. And I've learned a lot so much, and I think it's so much amazing conversations across different areas of the industry, which is amazing. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
On my side as well, thank you. It was interesting to see all the presentation. I attended the first day and today as well. And thank you to VTech and Spartech for organizing this event, and for you, Mr. Ahmed, for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you all. Goodbye. Have a good day, and be safe, please.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.